The Indiana Fever destroyed the Atlanta Dream.
There is 36 seconds left. A blowout by the Fever.
Gutty performance from Caitlin Clark.
Caitlin Clark had the ball in her hands. She became the creator of offense.
That is Fever basketball.
2 minutes ago, Caitlin Clark shut down the Atlanta Dream and sent a message to the entire league.
Overall, I think the energy of this team is just different, man.
It happened in seconds, and the whole arena went silent. Caitlin Clark just stepped onto the court like she had something personal to prove. And within moments, she turned the Atlanta Dream into a nightmare. Fans couldn't believe their eyes. As Brittney Griner, the veteran, the icon was left stunned while Caitlin drained back-to-back threes, broke down defenders, and lit up the scoreboard like she owned the entire state of Georgia's social media. In flames. People are calling it the most disrespectful performance of the season. And some say Clark might have just sent a message to every critic who said she couldn't handle the pressure. Was this just another game? Or did Caitlin Clark just shake the entire 1B to its core? Because what she did to Griner's squad wasn't just domination, it was a statement. It all started with a look. You know, the one, eyes locked in, brows slightly furrowed, chin up just enough to let you know this wasn't going to be a regular night. Caitlin Clark walked onto the court in Atlanta. The calm so cold it gave people chills before the first whistle.
WNBA. She's the reason why all these fans are tuning in.
Nobody on this team sets screens.
Even blew. And across from her, Brittney Griner, towering. As always, full of confidence. But maybe just a little too confident. From the tip-off, you could feel the tension. The arena buzzed with excitement, but underneath that, something else, something electric. Social media had been brewing with chatter for days. Rumors, disrespect, tension between vets and rookies. And now, it was all about to explode. The first possession came fast. Caitlin caught the ball at half-court. Griner's teammates stepped up. And she didn't even blink. One hard dribble left. Then she pulled up from the logo, swish, silence, not even 10 seconds into the game. The statement was made, but she wasn't done. Next possession. She drove past two defenders, scooped a layup under Griner's outstretched arm, and got the foul. Clark's cooking early. One announcer stammered, "This could get ugly real fast." And it did. In less than 5 minutes, Caitlin Clark had 14 points to 3 threes, 2 layups, and a pair of free throws. And Brittney Griner, she hadn't even touched the ball offensively. The camera caught Griner shaking her head, jaw clenched. Was it frustration or shock? On the sideline, the Dream coach looked panicked, already calling for a timeout. But here's where things got wild. During that timeout, mics picked up what was supposed to be a private team huddle. Griner turned to her squad and said, "We're letting a rookie embarrass us on our home floor. This stops now." But it didn't, because when play resumed, Caitlin upped the pressure. She wasn't just scoring, she was dishing no-look passes, breaking ankles, and even stripping Griner on defense, causing a turnover that sent the crowd into chaos. Someone courtside screamed, "She's making Griner look like a rookie." And that wasn't far from the truth. The scoreboard didn't lie. By the end of the first quarter, the Fever were up by 19, and Caitlin Clark had nearly matched the entire Atlanta Dream's total points by herself. Twitter blew up. TikTok clips flooded timelines. Phrases like, "Caitlin Clark cooked Griner. In under 10 minutes, this ain't a game, it's a funeral. Welcome to the Caitlin Clark era," were trending within minutes. And then the camera cut to Brittney Griner on the bench, arms crossed, eyes locked on Caitlin, jaw tight. You could see it, the storm was brewing.
Clark locking down Jordan Canada. Jordan Canada had 4 second half points with Caitlin Clark guarding her.
And the veterans weren't about to just sit back and get clowned. The question now wasn't just whether the Dream could come back. It was, how far was Brittney willing to go to shut Caitlin down? 'Cause next quarter wasn't gonna be basketball. Anymore, it was going to be war. The second quarter didn't start with a jump shot. It started with an elbow. Not from Caitlin. Course. She was moving like a surgeon, precise and locked in. But Griner. She'd had enough. Barely 30 seconds in, Clark tried to come off a screen. And as she rounded the corner, Griner stepped into her path hard. Not enough to get called for. A flagrant, but just enough for the cameras to catch the tension. Caitlin stumbled, caught her balance, and stared her down. No words, just energy. That tight, sharp kind that lets you know a line had been crossed. Commentators went silent for a second. Then, one muttered, "This just got personal." Hey, and they weren't wrong, because what happened next wasn't just basketball. It was a full-on psychological duel. Griner started pressing higher, cutting off angles, trying to throw Clark out of rhythm. And for a moment, it worked. Caitlin missed 2 straight threes, then fumbled a pass. Atlanta scored 4 quick points, and the crowd roared back to life. But it didn't last long.
Jordan Canada in the first half was cooking for the Dream, and that's really what changed the game. Is how many three? What did she have? 6 threes in the first half. She's a 21% three-point shooter. I'm glad the Fever and Stephanie White didn't overreact.
On the very next possession, Caitlin shook her defender with a lightning-quick behind-the-back crossover, stepped back, and drained it. Net didn't even move. She didn't celebrate, didn't smile. She just jogged back on defense, eyes locked on Griner the whole way. Social media went berserk again. Screenshots of that stare flooded. Every feed with captions like, "Coldest rookie in the game, she'll want all the smoke." Caitlin Clark just challenged Griner with her eyes, but while fans were hyped, people courtside saw something different. Griner was unraveling. She was trying too hard, forcing shots, yelling at teammates. Her body language, frustration disguised. As fire. During a timeout, an assistant coach tried calming her down. Griner swatted the clipboard away. Reporters caught it. The tension was leaking out everywhere. Meanwhile, Caitlin, she just kept hooping. Step backs, floaters, off the glass assists. It was like watching Steph Curry in a rivalry game by halftime. The Fever led by 23, and Caitlin Clark had 28 points, 7 assists, and 2 steals. Griner, 6 points, 3 fouls, and a bench seat she hadn't left in 5 minutes. But then came the biggest twist of the night. As both teams walked off the court, Griner paused by the tunnel. Caitlin was a few feet behind her. They didn't speak. Didn't touch. But in that moment, Griner turned slightly and stared at Clark with something new in her eyes. It wasn't hate, wasn't anger. It was respect laced with fear. Because for the first time in a long time, Griner wasn't the most feared name on the court. And she knew it. By the time both teams hit the locker rooms, one thing was clear. This wasn't just a breakout performance. This was a takeover. And whatever happened in the second half was going to decide everything, because either Griner was going to rise up, or Caitlin Clark was about to make history when the teams returned for the third quarter. Everything felt different. The air was heavier. Even the crowd seemed torn, half on the edge of their seats, half frozen, wondering if Brittney Griner could somehow flip the script. And just like that, Griner came out swinging.
And they locked her down in the second half. She only had 4 points.
Literally, first possession. She demanded the ball in the post, backed down her defender, and slammed it home. Not a regular dunk, a message. And the message was loud. I'm still here. But before anyone could get too hyped, Caitlin answered. On the next play, she walked it up the court slow. Then like a switch flipped, sprinted off a double screen, and launched a 3. From deep. Nothing but net, the arena went quiet again. This wasn't just a back-and-forth game. It was psychological warfare, and then it got wild. Griner hit a mid-range jumper, her first since the first quarter, and barked at Clark. "You're flashy, but I'm the truth." Caitlin didn't flinch. She smiled, but the moment wasn't. Over the Fever pushed the ball again. Caitlin got it near the wing. And with Griner switched onto her, she crossed her twice, hesitated, stepped back, and drained it in her face. The crowd lost its mind. Griner threw her arm.
Overall, I think the energy of this team is just different, man. It just sucks, bro, because it's like last year, bro, this team was really fun to watch, bro. This team's not fun to watch no more, and I just got to be real with y'all.
Arms up like she couldn't believe it. Some said she even cursed under her breath. The camera didn't need to catch the words. Her face said enough. The announcers didn't know what to say. This isn't just a rookie shining, one said, stunned. This is a legacy clash. Kate, and by now even Griner's own teammates, looked confused, some frustrated, some helpless. Atlanta's head coach, pacing back and forth, trying to draw up something, anything, to slow Clark down. But it was too late. Caitlin was locked in every time she touched the ball. The crowd leaned forward. People in the arena were literally pulling out their phones, recording history in real time. And then came the pass. Caitlin drove into the lane, faked the shot, whipped a behind-the-back pass through two defenders, and hit her teammate for an easy bucket. The entire Fever bench stood up. Jaws dropped. Even the ref looked like he wanted to clap. At this point, the Dream were down by 30, and Brittney, she sat...
But you saw Clark sort of gaining her rhythm as the game went along, sort of returning to her form as the game went along, finding that pep in her step as the game went along, even though the shooting numbers were tour dates again, and she's got to find that shooting stroke at some point. Look, it can't go on all year, but you understand where some of those struggles come from when you deal with a quad injury and then a groin injury, and you're thrust back into the lineup and you're trying to find your way. But I do think it was the way that Clark found her way to the basket that was the difference in this game, really.
Not injured, not fouled out, just benched. The coach had seen enough. It wasn't about pride anymore, it was about survival. But then, the camera caught something insane. Griner, sitting on the bench, looking up at the scoreboard, shaking her head with a small smirk. Was it defeat? Was it acceptance? Or was she planning something? Because even off the court, Griner still loomed, and Caitlin knew it. You could see it in her face. The high was starting to wear off, fatigue creeping in, legs heavy, shots a little flatter, turnovers creeping in. And then, with 1 minute left in the third, Griner stood. Up. No coach signal, no substitution planned. She just stood. Up. Crowd went nuts. And with that, the fourth quarter was set. Not just a game anymore. This was going to be a reckoning. The fourth quarter wasn't basketball. It was a war zone. Griner checked back in, face stone cold, and for 5 straight minutes, she made it her mission to shut down Caitlin Clark, bodying her up, contesting every shot and talking trash so sharp you could feel it through the screen. And for a moment, it looked like the tide had turned. Clark missed 2 in a row, turned the ball over. Griner swatted a layup into the third row and let out a roar that shook the arena. Fans were on their feet. But Caitlin didn't run. She reset, caught her breath, and then, with 1:37 left on the clock and the Fever up by 9, she drilled a step-back 3 over Griner from deep. Again, ball game. As the final buzzer sounded, Caitlin Clark finished with 43 points, 9 assists, and 5 steals. Brittney Griner had 18 points and a front-row seat to the birth of a new era. Reporters tried to chase Griner down the tunnel. She didn't. Talk. Caitlin. She just smiled and said, "Respect to BG, that's the kind of battle that makes you better." Classy, lethal, unforgettable, and now fans everywhere are saying the same thing. This wasn't a game. It was a statement. Now we want to hear from you. Was this Caitlin Clark's official arrival as the face of the league? Did Griner get humbled? Or was this just one chapter in a long rivalry? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Whose side are you on? Make sure to like, subscribe, and turn on that bell for more wild updates from the W world. Because if this game showed us anything, it's that the drama is just getting started. See you next time.